Good morning, everybody. Oh, had a bad hair day morning. Had a bad day getting up and getting motivated at all today. Spent a lot of yesterday talking about election integrity and this SAFE Act vote that was going on in the House. And so disappointing, disheartening, not surprising to see that the Democrats just are doing anything and everything to allow foreigners who are here in our country basically illegally because of the things that Mayorkas and Biden have done are against the law, that they want them to vote so badly that they will vote against their American constituents, the very people who put them into office, the very hardworking Americans who are paying their salaries to give them the opportunity to vote against Americans. That's basically what these fools are in DC. We have got to do better as Americans of who we are putting into office. You got to take a good hard look at who you're putting into office. And just because you have a D or an R in front of your name or as your party affiliation does not mean that that's who you need to vote for. Especially if you have a D. You got to look at yourself in the mirror sooner or later, slap yourself across the face and say, wake up. It's insane how these Democrats feel about American citizens, how these Democrats feel about America as a country, about how Democrats feel about the need to support illegals above homeless Americans, the need to support illegals above homeless veterans, the very men and women who have fought for our freedoms. And one of them is voting and freedom of speech and elections and all of these things that are happening. These are what these homeless veterans have fought for, to give you those opportunities and those rights, to keep them intact so that no foreign entity, company, or country or enemy of our lands can come in here and take those rights away from us. And what are these elections that are going to allow exactly that to happen? Foreign enemies to come into our country and destroy us from within illegally and cause mayhem and conduct terrorist attacks such as 9/11, allow illegal criminals to rape and kill our children and our women, assault and kill our citizens, drive drunk and kill our citizens, rob our retailers blind, cause inflation in America because of the fact that they're robbing all of these stores and these retailers are passing it all on to the honest people who pay for things. Then you've got our education system that's overwhelmed because of all these illegal children, and they're scrambling to get Spanish speaking and other. Now it's not just Spanish speaking, it's a lot of different languages that are being brought into our country. You can't survive as a society if people can't understand each other, if you can't talk to each other and have a conversation. If one person understands what a traffic sign says, but the next person doesn't, and they drive anyway, and they don't even know what the sign says that they're supposed to be doing. You can't have people from third world countries come in here that think it's okay to rape and have sex with 12-year-old girls. That isn't the morals and the laws in the United States. We don't put up with that stuff. But they come from countries where they do put up with that stuff, and it's common. You can't mix these type of societies and cultures together in such a heated, quick, compact fashion and expect everybody to get along and expect it to go well. I always go back to this article that I read where I don't know if it was a scientist or a teacher or somebody, but they had put red and black ants in a jar together. And they, were crawling around the jar and everything was going great. So somebody picked up the jar and shook it. And then all mayhem went crazy. They were attacking each other. And that's what's happening in the United States, because when you bring this volume of people illegally into our country in an invasion, an invited invasion, and you haven't prepared ahead of time for housing, for, the ability to provide these people with the bare necessities of getting along. So these people come here, there's no place for them to live. Americans are already experiencing, the high cost of rents, the interest rates that are so high that are making home ownership almost an impossibility. But by all means, bring all these people in who need a place to stay. That's a real smart move. That's like the government, the administration is actually causing this black ant, red ant situation in a jar, and they just keep shaking it on a daily basis. They're doing this on purpose. You can't have the Bill Gates of the world and the Chinese buying up all the farmland, and the situation up in Idaho where they're trying to take water away from these farmers who are trying to provide food and crops for us to survive. You can't take the water away from them and go and have cobalt mines up there, and then invite 11 million people into our country when you've already reduced the food source for the Americans that were here. When you start thinking about it in those ways, you understand that this isn't something that just, oh my gosh, we made a mistake. No, this is purposely done, folks. They're taking away the ability for farmers to grow food. They're taking the ability away from livestock ranchers from being able to raise the livestock that we need for our food sources. They're trying to push on us that we have to eat bugs. They're trying to push on us that we need to live in a compact 15-minute city. We need the government. This is the government speaking. We need to take your cars away because you don't need to go anywhere. And the less vehicle or gas-powered vehicles that we have out on the roads, guess what? The less oil that we need. And we don't have to depend on any other country, even though Trump proved that we can become oil independent here in the United States in the short 4 years that he was president. But these liberals, these Democrats, these climate change, they're the ones who think that they know better than anybody. We can't have cows that fart. It pollutes the environment. You can't grow a certain kind of crop because it takes up too much oxygen. We're poisoning the world. I've seen so many videos recently where these idiotic climate activists who are pretty high up there and pretty well regarded are asked how much CO2 is in our atmosphere. They don't even know. But that is the reason for the pollution in their minds. And they just get demolished by the scientists and the people in the know who know what are really happening in our atmosphere. And let me tell you something, this geoengineering and these chemtrails and this stuff, I've been reading more and more about it. I mean, there are government websites that you can go to that actually are talking about this. This isn't just conspiracy theory and something that somebody's made up from little, trails off of planes. When you actually look at a grid pattern that appears over like the Middle East, and 2 days later that horrific rain happened and flooded Saudi Arabia, that isn't coincidence. So folks, the very people who are saying that we have climate change going on are the people creating the climate change, because they're messing with nature. They're messing with God. They're putting terrible chemicals up in the atmosphere to create rain and these horrific hurricanes. Yes, there's hurricanes, but when you do the type of things that they're doing, it makes them even 10 times worse. And they don't care, because they have to have something to say, this is the climate change that's happening. Give us billions of dollars. We have to keep the masses at home. We have to take their vehicles away from them. We have to take their food sources away from them. Bill Gates has already said, and it's on video, how he wants to depopulate the world. We have to get rid of 1.5 to 2 billion people in this world. It's all on video. It's not a surprise of what they want to do to us. Do I believe in climate change? No. It's hotter than heck right now here in Phoenix. But guess what? It was hotter than this in the 70s when I was growing up. I look back at some of the weather. The temperatures were a lot higher back in the 70s. Weather and temperatures fluctuate, folks. And it's not helping what they are doing, these climate change folks and the chemtrail, cloud seeding, all that stuff that they're putting up in our atmosphere. That's not helping with matters. And they're doing it on purpose in a way that will make it hotter in certain times of year, or create bigger thunderstorms and hurricanes and those types of things to cause horrific flooding, and the droughts that will cause fires in Arizona and California the way that they are, which they don't chemtrail there because they don't want them to have rain. They want it to be a drought. They want it to burn. We are nothing to these people. But the more of you that they can get to agree with their agenda and go along with it, the better off they are. Right here in Mesa, Arizona, right up the street from where I live, just a little over a mile, there's a huge vacant area, and it was an older rundown area of Mesa that the city had slowly bought up, and they were going to put a college in there, and that fell through, and something else fell through. Well, now this developer who's done what they call the cul-de-sac in Tempe, Arizona, it's basically a 15-minute city, but they call it the cul-de-sac because the 15-minute city now has too many, bad vibes and bad things attached to it, that they don't want that kind of language. So they call it the cul-de-sac. And they did a little video of a girl who lives there, and her cost of living was a lot cheaper than, a young woman who would be able to go out and rent an apartment on her own right now. And she had her storefront. She had a candle business. So she rents this apartment, and her living room is her storefront, her living room window. She can put shelves and stuff up there and have her candles up there and whatnot. And then there's kind of like a curtain she pulls down that hides her kitchen. So people basically come into her home, into her living room to buy candles. And then at night, she just pulls the curtain up, and then that's her kitchen. And she has a bedroom and a bathroom. And that living room where her business is really like her living area, but she doesn't have that. So there's a little bar that she can sit and eat at, and she's got a little patio off the back. And then she talks about the fact how she doesn't have a vehicle. She rides a bike around the neighborhood, and all the other little apartments, there's people who run their little businesses out of them. And, the light rail's right up the street, and she can call an Uber if she needs to go somewhere. And if, she wants to go on a trip, she'll have to rent a car. I mean, everything's been taken away from this girl, and she was acting like it's the best thing that's ever been given to her. Oh, it's so wonderful. I can afford to live here, and my business, I can run my business out of here. And, I can just get on my bike and just ride up the street to the sandwich shop and get myself something to eat and come back home. Okay, now they're isolating. That is what these 15-minute cities do. They isolate you. And, they were showing people walking their dogs and, going around from the different houses and shopping and stuff. But come on. Is that realistic, honestly? Do you see that really being a way that Americans who have been raised in the way that we have, where we have a private home with a yard, with the fence that you can have your dog run around or a cat in your house, that you're not renting these places and have even more strict regulations put down on you? No dogs, no cats, or you have to pay extra. At least with home ownership, you're able to live your life. You're able to park your car in your garage or your driveway or your carport and get in the car and go up to the grocery store when you need something. The light rail here in Mesa, a block away from this cul-de-sac neighborhood that they're going to be building here in Mesa, this 15-minute city, the light rail is the homeless hotel on wheels. It's so disgusting. And it was great when it first opened and everybody was like, oh yeah, we're going to take the light rail and we're going to go down to wherever. And it was like, it was the first and the last time that they'll ever get on the light rail here in Mesa. It goes all the way from East Mesa, Gilbert, Maine, into Phoenix. And what a lot of the police departments, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe, what they do with petty criminals that are there, or homeless people, they'll give them a light rail ticket and say, get on the light rail because it's air conditioned. They'll get on there and then they'll end up all the way at the end of the line in Mesa. And then the light rail shuts down for the night. And then they get out and they're here in Mesa. All these homeless people, homeless criminal type people are here roaming around by the light rail in Mesa. So that's why I call it the homeless hotel on wheels. You've got a man who's running for mayor here in Mesa who actually was the guy who brought the light rail into Mesa. And now he wants to become mayor again, and he wants to extend the homeless hotel on wheels. It's a huge waste of money when you look at the money that was put into it and the amount of people who ride on it on a daily basis. It just doesn't happen. You've got these bigger cities like New York or Chicago, and they've got these subway systems and buses, and that's just the way New York and those kind of places are. The high rises, the terrible traffic, you get a cab. It's just, that's the way the lifestyle is. But you can't come into a sprawling city like Phoenix, Arizona, and all of its suburbs and think that these people are going to just say, oh yeah, let's start building these high towers, these high-rise towers, and take our cars away and make us depend on public transportation to get anywhere. That isn't the way it works. This is too spread out here in Arizona. You can't have 15-minute cities. There's things that you need and you want and activities you want to participate in that you need a car to get there. But these climate change freaks are going to shove this down our throats. And the city of Mesa had a 2030 plan, and this whole 15-minute city, was disguised as the cul-de-sac. And enough people weren't paying attention to, wait a second, what does that mean? The cul-de-sac, and it just showed some apartments and explained that these people could run businesses out of their apartments and whatnot. But people didn't pay attention to the fact that there was no parking, no place to put your car. And the city of Mesa was all too willing to keep those planners who had put that whole thing together away from the public meetings, so that if anybody had a question about it, which I did, I said, where's the 15-minute city people? Well, we don't have 15-minute city. Well, yeah, you do. The cul-de-sac, the 15-minute city. Oh, yeah, well, they're not here. Okay, well, here's my information. Please have them call me. Do you think I've heard from them? No. They don't want this information getting out there wide scale. These are tests that they're doing. These are test communities. And when you have these big investment firms like BlackRock and well, there's many others. When you have all of these big investment companies coming in and buying all these single family homes at a time when the interest rates are too high for Americans to afford, they're coming in with cash and buying all these homes. Where is there going to be an opportunity for Americans to buy homes? Mesa's about landlocked. There's very few opportunities within the city of Mesa city limits to build new homes anymore. I mean, there are some areas, but then you've got, the city council who's going to put heavy regulations and those types of things on the new communities because they don't want the sprawl. They want to compact people. They want to control people. So your homework is you've got to look into these city council and these mayor candidates in your cities and towns, because you have to look back and look at any interview they've done or any article about them and look for the key words. Environmental protection. Not that we don't want to protect our environment, but when you've got those kind of key words, diversity, inclusion, equity, climate change, any of those types of words in any of their propaganda that they're putting out while they're running for office is a clear indication that they're a kook. And they're going to be voting for anything that will create more control over you or give an opportunity for a job within the city to somebody who doesn't have the qualifications at all, but has the right color skin or is a right gender or has come from a foreign country. It's all that matters to these folks. It isn't your qualifications anymore. So what do all of these college educations even mean for anybody? And is this why the Biden administration is willing to pay off all of these college loans? Because they know they mean nothing for these people, because they're hiring people and encouraging companies to hire people who don't have the education and the experience. And it's only based on diversity. That's it. The funny thing that I find here in Mesa, Arizona, is that they have a East Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And I went to one of their galas, their big gala last fall, because the Mesa Police Association gives a scholarship out in my deceased son's name, Sergeant Brandon Mendoza Scholarship. And so I went to it, and I find it interesting because the businesses of the year and the business owners of the year were illegals. And they talk about inclusion a lot. A lot of that was talked about. And yet the ironic thing is we're sitting at a East Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce gala. Why aren't we sitting at a East Valley Chamber of Commerce gala? Why does it have to be Hispanic? Yet they're the ones talking at this gala about inclusion. Have it make sense, folks. Because the inclusion and the equity and the diversity will never include certain races, certain skin color, and certain types of education and experience. Won't. You look at the airline industry and what's happening there, even the planes that are being built. Or I was stunned. I was listening to this video, watching it, and this plane, a small plane, was approaching an airport, and the pilot was telling the tower that the co-pilot just jumped out of the back of the plane. And the guy in the tower is saying, "What?" And he goes, "My co-pilot just jumped out the back of the plane without a parachute." And the tower is like, "Okay, you can continue approaching." And he's like, "No, do you want me to circle back around where I know he jumped out so that you guys can find him the guy in the tower is like, what do you mean? And he's like, this co-pilot jumped out the back of my plane without a parachute. There's a body. Do you want me to turn around and do a circle around so that you can mark the location of where this dead body is going to be found? And the guy on the tower is like, what do you mean? I mean, in a situation like that, he's like, your approach has been approved. He wasn't even listening to this pilot or acknowledging anything that he was saying. And I mean, as a layperson who has nothing to do with the aviation industry, I understood what the guy was saying, and I understood why he was asking the tower that. Why didn't this guy in the tower? It would be great to see what his educational background was. And yet these are the people that we are willing to put our lives in their hands for the sake of diversity. Let's have these people from Haiti who have no education in the airline building, in aviation. Let them come in to Boeing's factories now, because we need more foreigners so that our scorecard can go up, that we've got diversity, DEI. We are applying that here at Boeing. And now you've got Boeing planes taking off and their wheels falling off, or the hatches, the doors busting open because of screws and bolts that weren't used properly. This is what we're becoming. And the more chaotic and the more desperate that these uneducated, unwilling to work foreigners get frustrated, and they're given less and less, because America's going to run out of money. There's no way that we can continue giving them everything. We can't continue providing them with luxury hotels in downtown New York and 3 square meals a day. Can't afford it. And I honestly can't believe that the people in New York haven't protested and had protest marches going down the streets, honestly. But, you know, if something was going on in the other direction, you could be darn guaranteed that there would be protests going on in the streets by the left, by the liberals, by Antifa, by all those people. So crazy as this seems or sounds, I was reading an article last night, and I read it to my granddaughters, and they couldn't even believe what I was saying. But it's over in California, and I can't remember what, San Francisco. I can't remember which city it is, but yeah, the attorney general there has, or the city attorney there has told Target, the Target shopping store, that if they continue to make calls to the police department at the annoying rate that they are about theft, that they will start getting fined, because the police department doesn't have the resources to answer all their calls. Now think about that for a minute. So now this is out in the news that Target's going to be fined if they keep calling about the retail theft that's going on. And so now the criminals are saying, cool, police aren't going to show up at Target anymore. That's our target this week. Let's go to Target and wipe them out, because the police aren't going to show up. We can be in and out of there in 5 minutes. The police aren't going to show up in 5 minutes. We can do whatever we want. Insane. You know, you've got the Arizona Police Association here, who has actually endorsed, this is one that I know of for sure, I haven't looked into all their endorsements, but the Arizona Association of Police has endorsed a Democrat who is all about defunding the police. And they've done it under the guise of, well, she's the incumbent. You've got a 27-year Mesa Police veteran who is running against her, Arizona Association of Police. And that's the guy that you should be backing up. I don't care if she's the incumbent. I don't care if you don't think that she can win. You've got to back up the officer who's put 27 years in. That's the guy you endorse. Arizona Association of Realtors. I am a 42-year realtor, member of the Arizona Association of Realtors. They have endorsed my fellow Republican who's running with me, who's 32. She's never been a realtor. She has never owned a home, and that's who they're endorsing. And when I called them out on it, they were like, well, it was your survey. No, I got my survey out. It's pretty much 100% in line with the Arizona Association of Realtors. I've been a realtor for 42 years. I know what our issues are. Well, it was your in-person interview. No, I didn't have an in-person interview with them. Well, it was that article about you in a Halloween costume from 14 years ago. Okay, so now you've played your cards, Arizona Association of Realtors, that you are willing to back the candidate up and endorse them and put your stamp of approval on this little unexperienced legislator who's running, who has publicly gone out and stated things about her campaign. She would vote to repeal the Abortion Act. She would vote to roll the Republican caucus. You've got other candidates that are running that are backing up people that there's so much I want to say, and then there's a part of me that says I have to keep my mouth shut. But there's so much going on in politics and behind the scenes. And what I find really, really funny is somebody who likes to put their mouth out there and say a lot of things and try and bring me down. And this is a fellow Republican, folks, and put things out there and approach lobbyists and suggest to them that they don't back me up because I'm too conservative. This is a fellow Republican candidate who's doing this. And what these lobbyists are looking for is somebody to back up who is more moderate. Arizona Association of Realtors, Karen Robson Taylor has a big say in all that money. Karen Robson doesn't like me because I backed up Kari Lake for the governor race. This is what happens in politics. And you've got to stand firm in your convictions. If you are a conservative and a constitutionalist, and it's burning so strong in my belly that I want to be the person that my constituents can count on. They know I show up at the monthly meetings. They know I'm going to be there to listen to them. I'm not going to be the legislator who disappears. And if I've done something wrong that's against what my constituents and my precinct committee men and women and people who show up at these meetings monthly to have a conversation with me, if I've done something wrong, I've got to face the music. You have to have these conversations. And you have to explain, well, this is why I voted against this bill, because it had this, this, and this in it. And I know you guys are against those three things. So we can't vote for a certain bill when there's three things in there that are really going to harm our community. But you have to have those conversations with them. And a lot of these people that are running for office are not of that mindset, folks. They're not going to do it. They're saying all the right things, but they're really spewing some hate and some untruths and some flat out lies about their fellow Republicans. I've got my Democratic opponents who talk about the fact that I'm a violent racist and that I'm anti-Semitic because I had the audacity to retweet something about the Federal Reserve back in 2020, retweeted something. Didn't write it out myself, but retweeted it about the Federal Reserve and the damage that they've done to our country. And that's the wholehearted truth. I don't care who's behind it. Well, I do care who's behind it, but I could care less. It's mainly about their character and what they were willing to do to their country versus what religion or what the color of your skin is. I could care less. It's your character and what you've done. So I retweeted something about the Federal Reserve, which got me labeled an anti-Semitic. And then I went to a Halloween party 14 years ago, and I dressed as Aunt Jemima. And so my Democratic opponents call me a violent racist. I've been endorsed by people of color. I gave birth to 4 half Hispanic children, and I'm a violent racist. Now, let's take a look at Lorena Austin, who's running in LD9. Lorena Austin is actually a legislator, an elected legislator in LD9, and she has signed on a letter with Katie Hobbs demanding for an immediate ceasefire in Israel, and basically is a pro-Hamas supporter. So who is the anti-Semitic? I think Lorena Austin. She's shown her true colors. She's actually signed a letter with the governor and has put things out proving her to be a pro-Hamas anti-Semitic. What else is Lorena Austin? Lorena Austin is a child groomer, because Lorena Austin is a self-proclaimed queer, non-binary queer, and she's all about keeping nasty books in the school libraries and the public libraries, and she hosts drag queen shows as fundraisers for herself and has in capital letters, all ages welcome. Anybody like that who wants nasty books available to our children and who wants these children to show up at these drag shows is a child groomer. So is that what LD9 really wants to represent them? A proven anti-Semitic and a child groomer? I don't think so. That isn't what Mesa's about. I'm about the real issues that are facing us. Lorena Austin ran on, oh, she's going to make more housing more affordable. But her biggest platform is LGBTQIA. I have no problem with the gay community, but I have a problem with people like Lorena, who are after our children. Stay away from our children. She voted against legislation that would have given a stricter sentencing to pedophiles here. She voted against legislation that would have stricter penalties for trafficking children. Who does this? The Democrats. The Democrats. The trans. The trans activists. The ones who want our children available to them for their perverted ideas. Children don't need to be at a drag queen show at all. And I had some undercover people go to that party or that fundraiser for her, because if there were any children there, I wanted photos of it. I wanted to be able to put it out in the public. There weren't any children there, but I was told that the drag queen guy was very, very scary. So you think about even that, how traumatizing that would be for a child to be at something and watching this thing that they can't even explain in their minds, because there are 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 watching this happen. This is not the kind of activity that we need around our precious children. Then you go on to the fact that, I want to show you this, because this is really, really frightening. And I'm tired of the fact that this is just ignored. Let me see. And it's not really talked about. But we have a whistleblower who came out. Let me see. Sorry, I got to find it. it's an article about a whistleblower. You know what? I know where I can go and find it. Sorry about this. I post this stuff, and I know that I send it to people, and I try and find it in my. There we go. Let me go here. Sorry about this. Ooh. I know it was in the last day or two. I'm so sorry. Anyway, a whistleblower came forward and was testifying up in Congress that there's billions of dollars, billions of American taxpayer money being spent on distributing these unaccompanied minor children who've come across our border. They're distributing them throughout the United States. And this woman was saying that Biden is actually facilitating the largest child sex trafficking ring that she's ever seen. And she started questioning her superiors on some of the things that were going on. And they were telling her that wasn't in her scope. That wasn't any of her business. Do her job, do her job. But her and another woman who came forward were saying that the 16-year-old girl, and she's still haunted by this at night, this 16-year-old girl was given to a man who really, there wasn't any proof that they were related. And supposedly this is who they're giving their children, these children to, is their relatives. So the woman heard screams, and she's been worried about the 16-year-old ever since, because she said there wasn't any family type resemblance. The man was touching this girl in an inappropriate way for I think they claimed it was her cousin, for a cousin to be touching, his female cousin. It just wasn't appropriate behavior at all. And she said, I'm afraid this girl has been given to somebody who is sex trafficking. And there was even an instance where I think they found something on social media where some of these girls were being put out there for sex trafficking. So this is what the Biden administration has allowed to happen. This is what Mayorkas is facilitating. This is what HHS, Health and Human Services, is facilitating. They don't care where these kids go, because it's bad optics if there's too many of these kids in these detention centers. They've got to move them out. It's like processing cattle. They don't check all the cattle out. There's a sick one that gets through and goes to the slaughterhouse, and oh, well, who cares? The unsuspecting American will eat this meat. It's the same way with these kids. Here, we need to get these 5 16-year-olds out of here. We'll call this guy. He says he could take up to 5 16-year-olds. Okay, he shows up with the big van, windows blacked out, hands the girls over to him. Nothing more is gotten from him. They just write down, uncle picked up the 4 girls or the 5 girls, or a neighbor picked them up to deliver them to their families. They don't care. They don't care about these kids. They don't care about the women and what they go through, and that they're raped along the way. They don't care that these young children are raped along the way. They don't care that they've handed them over to people who will continue raping them and selling them out onto the sex market. They don't care. And we need to get it through every American's head. The Democrats don't care about you. The liberals don't care about you. The Biden administration doesn't give a shit about you. They don't. Otherwise, they would close the border. They would stop the trafficking of these 800,000 plus unaccompanied minor children that they have in their possession. This woman whistleblower even said that she kept seeing the same address over and over being used for some of these kids that were being released. And she went to it. It was an empty, vacant lot, folks. She doesn't know where any of these kids are. She tried to do some follow-up on it all. They were given to somebody who gave an address of a vacant lot. No house, no mobile home on it, nothing. Where are these kids? This is what Biden and Mayorkas have done. Crimes against humanity, crimes against Americans, trying to bring Western civilization down, the last stronghold that we have here. Canada's a lost cause. We saw what happened in England and France with their elections. They've let the refugees who invaded their country take over their country. And it's more of the Muslim fraction, the ISIS type people, the I can't remember what the one guy was saying, but I'm wondering if I can share. I might be able to share my Facebook. So I want to share a few things. This is good. I can share my Facebook with you. So I posted this yesterday. If I need to show my driver's license to buy Sudafed, you need to show yours when it's time to elect the leader of the free world, right? So the SAVE Act, which requires proof of citizenship to vote in the federal elections, has passed in the House 221 to 198. All but 5 Democrats voted against the bill, making it extremely clear Democrats want illegals voting in November. Whoever those 5 Democrats are, bravo for you. I'll have to look into that. Biden has promised to veto the SAVE Act, and that's not surprising, actually, right? Let me see if I can get this to be a little bigger so I can read this to you. This is: the administration strongly opposes H.R. 8281, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. It is already illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. It is a federal crime punishable by prison and fines. The alleged justification for this bill is based on easily disproven falsehoods. Additionally, making a false claim of citizenship or unlawfully voting in an election is punishable by removal from the United States and a permanent bar to admission. The president has been clear he will continue fighting to protect Americans' sacred right to vote in a free, fair, and secure elections, including by calling on Congress to pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and Freedom to Vote Act. So they will not vote on anything protecting the vote. But the John Lewis thing is something that will make it a lot easier. This is how unhinged they get about this.
Because I am not aware.
Listen to this.
This bill is essentially a poll tax. Because I am not aware of a single proof of citizenship document that does not cost an individual money to get it, unless we are requiring every state to provide one for free, and then it's an unfunded mandate. This is the 2024 version of the Jim Crow poll tax, and we should vote against it.
Really? A birth certificate costs you money? Might cost you $20, but guess what? As an American citizen, I would sure make sure that I had one in order to be able to vote. The vote is sacred, right? 81% of Americans want ID verification to vote. 81%, folks. There's something else that I wanted to show you about this. So here it is in Arizona. A form from the Arizona's Medicaid office, and I think I showed this yesterday. But if you do not submit proof of citizenship, and we cannot acquire your proof of citizenship from the Arizona Motor Vehicle Division or the statewide voter registration database, you will receive a federal-only ballot, which has only federal races and no state, county, or local races or initiative and referendums. That's what happens in the state of Arizona, folks. Now, this is what the video I was trying to show you yesterday, and I figured out a way to do it. I want you all to listen to this because this is England now.
Because of the alcohol.
Wait.
1,000 people die every year because of the alcohol. We are sick and tired of democracy, and we are here to provide you an alternative, and that is the Sharia. That is Islam. And people of Britain, take a look around you. Do you not see the corruption? Do you not see the oppression? Look to how your democracy, it failed in the coalition government. Look to how your democracy, it failed when all of you wanted no war in Iraq. Oh, people of Britain, wake up. We as the Muslims have woken up a long time ago, and we are here to tell you that we will never stop struggling. We will never stop calling. We will never stop striving until the black flag of Islam is all over the world.
Do you believe that? That's in England. And like I was saying yesterday, I was in London with my mom in 2001, and we had a red eye. We landed in the afternoon, and this huge protest was going by this little pub we went into to have fish and chips, and it was all the Muslims, and that was in 2001. And you figure what's happened by then. And if all of those Muslim people at that time were having families, 24 years later, 23 years later, how many of them are now young adults, their children, and they've repopulated England with, they've taken over that, continent, that country. And that's what they have vowed to do. The Islamic State has vowed to come and take over everything, all of the Western civilization. And they're very patient. I mean, that was 23 years. I don't know how far before 2001 that they were starting to arrive there and making their presence known in England. And, there's very peaceful Muslims who live throughout the world. I'm not against Muslims, but when you have somebody like that guy who's talking and saying, we're sick of democracy. We're here to offer you an alternative, Sharia law. Are you kidding me? Really? Women are going to go for that? Pretty soon you're going to see in England where all the women have to have their bodies completely covered. Sharia law is going to go into effect, guaranteed. It may not be for 2, 3, 4 years, but watching that video of that white English officer speaking in Farsi and saying, I hope you all have a nice day. And, I'm thinking, is this real? Watching this all happening in France. And now they have set up the United States for the very thing to happen here. 11+ million invaders in the last 3.5 years. Folks, this is the election that's really going to be telling. And I'm really imploring on all of you to investigate and look into your candidates. If you need help, if you've got any questions, message me, because I'll do whatever I can to get you the information. And Laura, I have not forgotten about you needing a Mark Lamb sign. I'm trying to get a hold of anybody and everybody down there. I need you to text me your address, because I'm going to, you know what? I think I have it, but text it to me anyway on my cell phone number. I'm going to try and get a hold of somebody down there at the GOP or the Mark Lamb campaign and see if they can't get one delivered to your house, or at least give me an address where you can go get one. So I haven't forgotten about you, Laura. I wanted to let you know that. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you back on Tuesday. Bella says bye.